I never thought I'd fall in love in a hospital. But I guess when you spend 12 hours a day in scrubs, surrounded by beeping machines and the smell of antiseptic, life finds a way of surprising you. His name was Marcus, and he was my patient before he was anything else. That's important to remember because it made everything that happened between us both impossible and inevitable at the same time. I'm a nurse. Have been for 6 years now. Cardiac unit, mostly night shifts, the kind of work that makes you forget what sunlight feels like. I chose nights because they're quieter, more intimate somehow. During the day, hospitals are chaos. Family members everywhere, doctors making rounds with their entourages, phones ringing constantly. But at night, it's just you and the patients and the soft glow of monitors in darkened rooms. At night, people tell you things they'd never say in daylight. At night, you see who they really are. Marcus came to us on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays are usually slow and I'd been hoping for an easy shift. He was 32, same age as me, admitted with viral myocarditis. His heart was inflamed, struggling, and he'd need weeks of monitoring and treatment. When I first walked into his room to do his intake assessment, he was sitting up in bed, laptop open, trying to answer work emails despite the IV in his arm and the oxygen cannula in his nose. "You know you're supposed to be resting," I said, pulling up his chart on the computer. He looked up at me, and I swear something shifted in the air. He had these eyes, deep brown, the kind that looked like they'd already seen too much, but were still searching for something to believe in. "I'll rest when I'm dead," he said, then immediately winced. Sorry, probably not the best joke to make in a cardiac unit. I couldn't help but smile. "I've heard worse. But seriously, your heart needs you to slow down. That's kind of the whole point of being here." "My heart," he said, closing his laptop slowly, "has always been the problem." There was something in the way he said it that made me pause. Not just the literal meaning, but something underneath. Something sad and true and a little bit broken. I did his vitals, asked all the standard questions, noted everything in his chart. Professional. Distant. Exactly like I was supposed to be. But when I left his room that night, I found myself thinking about those eyes. The thing about being a night nurse is that you become a part of people's loneliest hours. When the visitors go home, when the hospital quiets down, when it's just them and their fear and the darkness pressing against the windows, you're the one who shows up. You're the one who checks their vitals at 2 a.m., who brings them warm blankets, who sits with them when they can't sleep because they're terrified their heart might stop beating. Marcus couldn't sleep. Not that first night, not the second, not the third. Every time I came in for my hourly checks, he was awake, sometimes reading, sometimes just staring at the ceiling. On the 4th night, I brought him chamomile tea from the break room, against protocol, but not technically forbidden. "Can't sleep?" I asked, setting the cup on his tray table. "Haven't really slept well in years," he admitted, "but this is different. Here, I'm hyper-aware of every heartbeat. Is it too fast, too slow? Is that skip normal, or is this it, the moment everything fails?" I pulled up a chair. I shouldn't have. I had other patients to check on, but something about his vulnerability made me want to stay. "Your heart is doing okay," I told him. "The medication is working. Your rhythm is stabilizing." "You read my chart every morning," he said. It wasn't a question. "That's my job." "I know, but I see you right when your shift starts, standing at the nurse's station, going through all your patients' charts. You read mine first, every morning." He was right. I did. I'd started doing it without thinking about it, my eyes automatically finding his name on the list, scanning for changes, improvements, setbacks. "You're my most medically complex patient," I said, which was true, but also not the whole truth. "Right," he said, but he was smiling a little. "Medically complex." We sat in silence for a moment. Then he said, I read faces. It's what I do for work. I'm a psychologist, or I was before this. I specialized in micro-expressions, body language, the things people don't say out loud. And every night when you come in here, I read your face. My stomach flipped. And what does it tell you? That you're tired, that you care too much, and it costs you, that you're lonely in the same way I am, the kind of lonely that comes from being surrounded by people all the time, but never really connecting with any of them. He paused. And that you feel something when you look at me, and it scares you. I should have left, should have made some excuse about needing to check on other patients, should have reestablished professional boundaries. Instead, I said, you're right, it does scare me. Why? Because you're my patient. Because there are rules. Because I've spent 6 years building walls around myself, and you're seeing through them in less than a week. He looked at me with such gentleness that I felt something crack open in my chest. I'm sorry, he said. I don't mean to make things complicated. You don't have to apologize for being perceptive. It's your gift. I stood up, but before I left, I said, try to get some sleep. Your heart needs rest. So does yours, he replied. After that night, something changed between us. Not in any obvious way. I still did my job, checked his vitals, administered his medications, updated his chart. But the conversations got longer, deeper. He told me about his practice, about the couples he counseled, about how he'd spent so much time helping other people understand their emotions that he'd neglected his own. He told me about his ex-boyfriend, about how the relationship had ended 2 years ago, and he'd thrown himself into work to avoid dealing with the grief, about how he'd ignored the symptoms of his illness for weeks, because slowing down meant feeling things he didn't want to feel. I told him things too, about why I became a nurse, about my mom who'd died of cancer when I was 19, about how I'd sat by her bedside every night and wished I could do something, anything to help her, about how nursing made me feel useful, but also kept me at a distance from real intimacy, about how I'd been single for 3 years because it was easier than risking my heart. We're both really good at protecting ourselves, Marcus said one night around 3 a.m. when the hospital was at its quietest. Yeah, I agreed, we are. And look where it's gotten us. Me with a failing heart, you working yourself to exhaustion, taking care of everyone but yourself. Maybe we're both a little broken, I said. Or maybe we're both just scared of being whole. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just sat there, and he sat there, and the monitors beeped softly, and something unspoken passed between us that felt like a promise neither of us was ready to make. 3 weeks into his stay, Marcus had a bad night. His heart went into an irregular rhythm, and suddenly his room was full of doctors and nurses, and I was pushed to the side, watching as they worked to stabilize him. I wasn't supposed to be emotional. I'd seen patients crash before. But standing there, watching them shock his heart back into rhythm, I realized I was terrified in a way I'd never been before. Not as his nurse, as someone who cared about him deeply, maybe even loved him, though I hadn't let myself use that word yet. When things stabilized and the room cleared out, I went back in. He was exhausted, pale but conscious. Hey, he whispered. Hey, yourself. My voice was shaking. You scared me. I scared myself. He reached for my hand and I let him take it. I kept thinking, if this is it, there's something I need to say. Don't, you're going to be fine. Listen to me. His grip tightened. I know this is complicated. I know there are rules and boundaries and all the reasons why this doesn't make sense. But I need you to know that these nights with you have meant everything to me. You've seen me at my most vulnerable and you haven't looked away. You've sat with me in the darkness and made it feel less dark, and I think I'm falling in love with you, and I needed to say it out loud at least once, even if nothing can ever happen. My eyes were burning. Marcus, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. But I did have something to say. I read your chart every morning because it's the first thing I want to know when I wake up. If you're okay. If you made it through another night. If you're one day closer to going home. And every night when I come in here, I'm not just checking on my patient. I'm checking on the person who's become the most important part of my day. So yes, it's complicated, and yes, I'm terrified, but I'm falling in love with you too. We just looked at each other for a long moment. I was still holding his hand. His heart monitor was showing a steady, strong rhythm, and I thought, this is what it feels like to be brave. What do we do now? He asked. Now you focus on getting better, and when you're discharged, when you're not my patient anymore, we figure out the rest. That could be weeks. Then we wait weeks. I've spent 3 years protecting myself from feeling anything. I can wait a few more weeks for something real. He smiled, really smiled, for the first time since he'd been admitted. Okay, we wait. The next 4 weeks were the longest and shortest of my life. I watched Marcus get stronger every day. His heart responded to treatment, the inflammation decreased, his rhythm stabilized. He started walking the halls, first with a walker, then on his own. His color came back, his energy returned. And every night I came in and we talked for hours about everything and nothing, building something between us that felt solid and true. We were careful, professional in front of other staff. But in those late night hours when it was just us, we let ourselves be honest. He told me about his childhood, about coming out to his parents at 16, about the first boy he'd ever loved. I told him about my fear of commitment, about the walls I'd built, about how terrified I was of losing someone else I loved. You're not going to lose me, he said one night, about a week before his scheduled discharge. You can't promise that. Your heart. My heart is getting stronger every day. And you know what the doctors told me? The reason I'm recovering so well is because I finally have something worth living for, someone worth taking care of myself for. I felt tears on my cheeks. I've never felt this way about anyone. Neither have I, and I've counseled hundreds of couples. I thought I understood love, but this, what I feel for you, it's different. It's real in a way nothing else has ever been. On his last night in the hospital, I brought him his discharge papers. His follow-up appointments were scheduled, his medications organized, his instructions clear. He was going home in the morning. He was no longer my patient. So, he said, I guess this is it. For the professional relationship, yes. And for the other relationship? I sat down on the edge of his bed, breaking about a dozen protocols and not caring at all. I have tomorrow night off. There's this little Italian place near my apartment. Nothing fancy, but they make the best pasta in the city. Are you asking me on a date? I'm asking you on a date. He reached up and touched my face, gentle, like he was memorizing the shape of it. I would love nothing more. 7 o'clock. I'll be there at 6:55. I laughed. Of course you will. I'm not wasting any more time, he said. I almost died before I found you. Now that I have you, I'm not letting a single moment slip away. That first date turned into a second, then a third, then too many to count. We moved slowly, carefully, both of us, learning how to be vulnerable in ways we'd never allowed ourselves before. He taught me how to read the subtle languages of emotion, how to see what people were really saying beneath their words. I taught him how to slow down, how to take care of himself, how to let someone else take care of him too. 6 months after his discharge, he moved into my apartment. A year after that, we got engaged in the hospital chapel, the same building where we'd met, surrounded by a few close friends and some of the nurses who'd watched our story unfold. One of them, Sarah, cried through the whole thing. I knew it from day one, she said. I saw the way you looked at his chart every morning. And I saw the way he watched for you every night, Marcus added, squeezing my hand. We got married on a Tuesday because Tuesdays were when everything began. Small ceremony, just family and close friends, nothing elaborate. But when I looked at Marcus standing across from me, healthy and strong and alive, I thought about that night when his heart had crashed, when I'd stood helpless watching them try to save him, when I'd realized I loved him. In his vows, he said, "You saw me at my weakest and you didn't look away. You sat with me in the darkness and you brought light. You read my chart every morning and I read your face every night, and what I see there is the rest of my life." In my vows, I said, I became a nurse because I wanted to help people. I worked nights because it felt safer than daylight. But you taught me that the bravest thing we can do is let ourselves be fully seen. You taught me that love isn't about protecting ourselves, it's about being willing to be broken open. And you taught me that sometimes the person you're meant to find finds you when you're not even looking. That was 3 years ago. Marcus's heart is strong now. He's back to work, helping couples communicate, helping people understand the languages of love they've forgotten how to speak. I'm still a night nurse, but I cut back to 3 shifts a week so I can have more time with him. We have a little house now, with a garden that Marcus tends to obsessively, and a cat named Tuesday, who rules us both with an iron paw. Every morning before I go to sleep, after my shift ends, I still check his chart. Not a medical chart anymore, but the chart of his face. The lines around his eyes, the set of his shoulders, the way he smiles when he sees me walk through the door. And every night before I leave for work, he reads my face, sees the exhaustion and the love and the gratitude all mixed together. "You okay?" he always asks. "Better than okay," I always answer. Because here's what I learned. Love doesn't happen in the big dramatic moments, though those matter too. Love happens in the quiet spaces, in the late-night conversations when you're both too tired to pretend, in the gentle touch of a hand when someone is scared, in the choice to stay when leaving would be easier, in reading someone's chart every morning and having them read your face every night, and both of you seeing each other clearly, completely without illusion or pretense. I never thought I'd fall in love in a hospital. But life has a way of surprising you. Sometimes your person finds you in the most unexpected place, at the most unexpected time, and all you can do is be brave enough to let them in. Marcus's heart failed once, and in failing it led him to me. And my heart, which I'd kept so carefully guarded for so long, broke open and let him in. We're both scarred, both imperfect, both still learning how to be vulnerable with each other. But we show up every day. We read each other's charts and faces and hearts. We sit with each other in the darkness and make it less dark. And every night when I leave for work, he kisses me and says, "Come home safe." And every morning when I come home, he's there and I am safe, safer than I've ever been, because I finally let myself be fully known by someone who sees all of me and loves me anyway. That's what I want you to know, whoever you are listening to this. Love is terrifying. Being vulnerable is terrifying. Letting someone see you at your weakest is terrifying. But it's also the most beautiful thing you'll ever do. It's also the thing that makes you whole. So if you're scared, be scared. But be brave too. Read the charts, read the faces, read the moments between the words. And when you find someone who sees you, really sees you, let them in. Let yourself be broken open. Let yourself be loved, because in the end, that's all any of us really want. To be seen, to be known, to be loved anyway. Marcus is sleeping now, peaceful and safe, his heart beating strong and steady. And I'm about to leave for my shift, about to walk into that hospital and take care of other people who are scared and vulnerable and hoping someone will sit with them in the darkness. and I will. I'll sit with them. I'll read their charts and see their faces and do everything I can to help them heal. Because Marcus taught me that healing isn't just about the body. It's about the heart. It's about being willing to stay when things get hard. It's about showing up night after night and choosing love even when it's complicated and messy and terrifying. He read my chart every morning. I read his face every night. And together, we learned how to read the language of love.